is resting on. There's strengths and weaknesses to all three, and I think the key is what's in red here. Amazon is in this business to make margin off of our product sales, whereas Apple and Google have very different missions. We always have to look at these three giants with those things in perspective. Apple wants to sell hardware and software, and Google wants to sell advertising. And that's what these guys are in it for. So when we look at all three, we always have to make sure we put the proper lens on when we're evaluating them. How am I doing on time? Not even halfway? Oh, I'm blowing through beautifully. Okay. So, we live in a world now that's no longer about what's going on in book sales in the US. You know, if you're in the professional side of publishing, if you're an STM, you're an academic, you know this already. But trade publishers have been all about territoriality for years. We've made most of our sales local and rights global. And now all of a sudden, we have products that can travel global with the click of a button. And that's changed an awful lot. Even print products have a global territoriality these days. We talked about the book depository earlier. This is a little wonderful widget they have on the book depository website, which you just stare at all. You can stare at for an hour and watch hundreds of books just being purchased all over the world. And it's this wonderful little Google map. But I just caught a screenshot of, look at 4 books, boom, 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 just popped up with people buying them all over the world. These are print books, by the way. So let's walk through that a little bit. A market that has been devastated by the global reach of book publishing these days has been Australia. Now, Australia, of course, we can go into some of the details of the market. 22.5 million people. Their market breakout is basically 50% retail chain stores. Big box stores, supermarkets are 25%, and the independents are about 25%. Fairly similar to the US, with one big exception. There's actually no local Amazon at all. There are biggest online retailers called Booktopia. Most of the market is sold paperback books. Paperbacks are extremely big there. First releases right into paperback, no hardcover. Huge amount of book buying per capita, especially compared to the US, but even compared to the UK. They have a very small population with a giant landmass and extremely lousy supply chain. And of course, their biggest retailer has gone under. But they have a really, really, really high price for their local books. It's always a wonderful market, especially if you're a British publisher, where you have territorial rights over Australia. You can make books that are going for 8 to 10 pounds more than your UK hardcover and sell them into Australia right off the bat. So, here's an example of what we're talking about. Now, here is look at that retail price. By the way, the Australian dollar and the US dollar are pretty much parallel, 1-to-1 right now. That is a brand new trade. Look, this is Clan of the Cave Bear Lady. This is like, this hasn't been popular for 150 years. Look at that, 50, but ooh, you can get a bargain down to 32 if you buy it off of them, and maybe there's some shipping involved, right? Okay, now, let's go to the book depository. Let's go to the UK. Oh, you know what? They happen to have the exact same book, even the same cover. Now, this is interesting. The RRP there. Now, here's what they're selling it for. Okay, with free delivery worldwide. You don't even pay for shipping. You can buy this book on the book depository for $22.36 versus $32 off of a $49.95 retail price book. So if you're sitting in Sydney and you're willing to wait 3 days, not 1 day or 2 days, you can save $10 on each individual title that you buy. That is a broken marketplace, which is, I know, I keep the wrong button, but there's some hope. The hope is in the ebook. And interestingly, for all of our fears about piracy and worry about ebooks wreaking havoc to territoriality, ebooks, because of the way we set them up and the way we set up our partnerships, are really easy to manage because we've got territorial filters on the platforms and the deals we have. And so if you don't own an Amazon UK Kindle with a billing address in the UK, you can't purchase this book. This is what you get when you try to pricing information not available. I just went onto the Amazon Co. UK site from the US and it said, you can't do this. And what has happened is we've put in an interesting set of filters which has allowed people to concentrate their territoriality properly. Now, this ebook, of course, is going to be priced completely different than the print book. But the point I'm trying to get to here is that the irony of things is that ebooks are actually could turn out to be a boon to territoriality as opposed to breaking down global territoriality. It all depends on how these rights are managed with the retailers. Okay, so the question I was asked before, is there a future for print? Well, is it only a digital future ahead from a trade publisher's point of view? First of all, let's think about how ebooks impact print books in a negative way. For the first time in sort of book publishing, we're putting out, in terms of trade, we're putting out 2 editions of the same work at 2 different price points. It's a very interesting, problematic model. Even when people do par pricing, you come out with the ebook at the same price as you do the hardcover. Amazon just drops the price down to $9.99 if it's a brand new book anyway. So there's a perceived difference in pricing. It's not like the days of the hardcover came out, you had peak demand pricing, you had your highest prices with hardcover, then the demand would wane and you come up with your paperback at the next tier of pricing, and then your mass market and the next tier down there. We have, right at the beginning, the full price, demand price book and the ebook. And especially if you're in the agency model, right off the bat, you're going $35 hardcover, $16 ebook. So you're seeing at the same time, ebooks clearly are going to eat into some part of this publishing chain. And they have. The assumption is that you've just launched your paperback business at the same time as your hardcover business, as opposed to making the paperback folks wait and tempting them into the demand of the hardcover. You're giving people convenience reading at the same time as your demand pricing is out there. And that is clearly eating into paperbacks as a whole. Paperbacks are the most significantly impacted part of the trade book publishing world right now. Where we're seeing our decline in print is by far in paperback, far greater than in hardcover. Hardcover is impacted, but not in the same way that paperback is. One of the things that's happening is the upfront orders from the retailers because of the simultaneous ebook. They're ordering less upfront, which means we're printing less, which means our unit costs are creeping up.